If you're looking for the best possible campaigns to make money on Google Ads with your ecom store, you've came to the right place. In this presentation, I'm going to be going over exactly what campaign types we run for our clients on initial launch that give you the highest probability of making money and succeeding when you're launching a Google Ads account. So that being said, let's jump right in. The first thing is going to be search campaigns. This is pretty self-explanatory. When people hear Google Ads, they think of search campaigns. It's almost synonymous. When it comes to search campaigns, there are different ways to build them out, and we talk about that throughout our channel. But when it comes to a main campaign type, it's one of the campaign types that allows you to fixate on specific types of traffic, which is essential when it comes to testing new products, your store, a new offer, whatever it is. You hold the traffic quality as a variable. That way, it's not debatable whether or not it's the right type of traffic that can convert. If you know they're searching for your exact product and it's not converting, then you can look at the asset side. The other area is going to be on PMAX. So PMAX campaigns, it's not too new by now. It's been around for about a year and a half when it came out of beta. But what it is essentially an omnipresent campaign type. When it comes to PMAX campaigns, they're going to show on the search network, display, shopping, YouTube, you name it. Most of the main platforms within Google, it's going to show ads for. What that also means is you need a lot of assets, right, to be able to show on those different platforms. We'll talk about that a little bit deeper into the presentation. But when it comes to these campaign types, we usually are splitting budget about half-half, depending on how much money you can spend or are willing to spend on Google on the front end. A lot of the times when you're launching a new Google Ads account, a good rule of thumb is about $100 per day. That way you can run $50 on search minimum, $50 on PMAX minimum, and then start catering the budget towards what's working best. But if you have less, you don't want to spread the budget out too thin. You generally want to pick one or the other. If you had to pick between the two, PMAX will do a little bit more on the algorithm side for you, and it could be a good idea to test that first if you have a really small budget, like let's say $20 a day or $30 a day, because you're not dealing with the super high CPMs of cost per click, which is going to be on the search side. And CPMs, just a reminder, that's the amount Google's going to charge you for every 1,000 people that sees your ad, right? In PPC, it's a little different because it's cost per click, but it still does behind the scenes boil down to CPM. So very long-winded way of saying that the CPC will dial out that budget a lot quicker than PMAX, which will charge you less for the traffic. So moving forward, they do complement each other. When it comes to PMAX, a lot of the times it's going to go after a mix of top of funnel and bottom funnel. What that means is not only will it go after cold traffic who don't know your products yet, but if you're running Facebook ads or ads on a different platform, it will try to capitalize on the branded traffic first. It's kind of a double-edged sword. We consider it a necessary evil because what it will do is feed the campaigns with the right data of who to show on the cold side, and it will steer the campaign that way. You know, not always ideal to bid a bunch or like spend a bunch of money on the branded side of what you're running. But with PMAX, it's kind of unavoidable. There are settings that let you avoid it. We've always seen PMAXs outperform when they get that steady data coming in of the exact type of person buying your product from these other channels. And then search, of course, is, you can't have different search campaigns, of course. A lot of times we launch clients with branded campaigns along with cold traffic campaigns. Cold traffic is where the scalability is. But what it does let you do is it lets you solely go after cold traffic, which is very important when it comes to building out a new account. And then one last thing is omnipresent. So PMAX, I mentioned this before, is an omnipresent type of campaign. If you're trying to be in multiple places aside from just the search network, PMAX is going to accomplish that for you. So it allows you to be in more places than one. Next thing, just diving deeper into search ads. Search ads allows you to go after what we call low-hanging fruit type traffic. These are going to be people who are searching things that are really close to your product or your actual product. It allows you to fixate on longer tail keywords that capitalize on intent. And when we talk about intent, we're talking about people who have the intent to buy. If somebody's searching something like, what's the best fishing rod to buy? They're kind of in the market for it. They might be in the market to actually buy. Maybe they're just doing research. But if somebody's searching for the exact type of fishing pole model, they're down funnel. They know exactly what they want. They're just trying to find the right store to buy it from. So when we're talking low hanging fruit, we're always going after the people who are most likely to convert, which almost always are people looking for specific model types or product types. People are looking for certain types of stores. People are typing in very specific types of searches around a product. You want to go after that first because it's going to be higher likely to succeed when it comes to conversion side. And also, you don't have to do the work of trying to convince someone to buy your product. They already want the product. They just need to know where to buy it from, right? Next thing is going to be bidding models to use. We almost always start campaigns with maximize conversions or maximize conversion value, depending on what you're going after. When it's on the ecom side, generally maximize conversion value is going to be where it's at. assuming you have tracking set up right. We have other videos going over that. That's going to let the campaigns dial in on who's going to bring in the most money. So there are different variations. You can do like a TCPA, things like that, which is going to be like a target cost per acquisition or towards the value side. But you want to go into that once you actually have a good amount of data to go into and you see consistency. Otherwise, it's going to totally skew how the campaigns run, and you're not going to let the campaign do what it needs to do to be able to get the initial data. It's going to kind of put a leash on it. Next thing, scaling. So when it comes to search ads, you can scale relatively quickly, safely. Unlike PMAX, which we'll talk about, there's definitely an algorithm element to these campaign types, but you don't have to be too worried about going haywire and starting to go after all this broad traffic, because if you're going after best practices that we preach in these videos, you're generally going to be on phrase match as far as the campaign type, and that's going to make sure no matter how hard you scale, it's always going after that specific type of traffic. Next is going to be how to segment. So segmenting for relevancy is really important. That comes down to a lot of conversations like quality score, making sure you get cost efficient traffic. We won't dive too deep into that in this video, but when you segment, you always want to make sure to segment with the highest form of relevancy, which means if you're selling, bikes, fishing rods, shoes, you don't want everything lumped into the same ad group, the same campaigns. You want to make sure that you only have ad groups and keyword groupings very similar to what they are. And then that way you can have the right ads going to the right landing pages, the right text in the ads, the right keywords going to those ads. And it creates kind of a full circle to have that relevancy, and Google rewards you for that. The next thing is going to be PMAX. So PMAX is by nature an algorithm-based campaign. When it comes to building PMAXs, you want to have obviously the best possible assets. If you don't always have most amazing assets, you can get away with jumping into Canva, using some stock image, whatever it is. But if you do have the opportunity, I highly recommend only launching this if you have really good assets, which are going to be video, it's going to be text ads, and then also display ads and some other minor elements like a logo and things like that. So one thing you want to do is make sure to maximize the amount you can add in. PMAX is going to shift through all these different assets you give it and find what works best. So you don't want just like a couple pictures, a couple videos. You want to put in as many as possible as it allows you to do that, and then it's going to sort through what works the best, and that's going to give it the arsenal it needs to convert that type of traffic. Next is going to be feed efficiency. So one of the channels that it'll show on is a shopping channel, and that is based off of your feed exclusively. So like we mentioned in other videos, we use some process in most of our clients for feed management. That's going to give you very good, from Shopify store to Merchant Center to the Google Ads account, feed fluency. The biggest thing with feeds though is you want to make sure you have very good titles, descriptions, make sure it's not messy. Don't use your brand name in every single product. You want to really plug in keywords that make sense people are going to be searching for, because Google uses the keywords in your titles and descriptions to know who to show the product for. That being said, it's a little bit of a dangerous game if you go after what's called keyword stuffing. You don't want to make it just like all about keywords. It needs to be consumable for the machine learning element, and then also for people who are going to see the product and know what they're buying. So you got to balance those and make it attractive to people too. Next is target KPIs. So KPIs almost always are going to rely on the individual store. The biggest thing with PMAX is going to be cost per acquisition, cost per conversion, and then also ROI. So depending on where your store is at ROI, most healthy ecom stores will have a break-even point about like 1.5 to 2x. In that case, we always scale with two things in mind. One's going to be break-even point, and one's going to be the scale point. Break-even point is what we know to never go below, or else you're losing money. And then the scale point is going to be how much profit margin do you want in there to keep scaling, whether that's 2.5x, 3x, and your break-even point's 2x. You can kind of see how that works in with the profit side. So when it comes to that, that's going to show you how quickly you can scale. If your PMAX campaign is doing a 5x and your scale point's 3x, you have a pretty good amount of room to increase the campaign's budget. We'll talk about this in other videos, but generally when it comes to these, you don't want to scale too fast, because if you give Google too much money too quickly, it wants to spend it regardless, and it's going to start fishing for all this broad traffic that's not going to convert. You're going to get really, really crappy traffic. So you want to make sure you're doing increases between, generally, we're doing 10 to 50% of the daily budget. And then we'll wait a couple days and see how it reacts. Let's say you have a really high ROI and it's doing 9x, but your scale point's 3x. That's going to be an indication you can do a much higher percentage. So let's say you're at $100 a day, you can increase it to 150, wait a couple days, and then if you still have an 8, 9x, then you can do it again and again. You want to make that percentage smaller the closer you are to your scale point, because it works on a lever system. The more you spend, the lower your ROI is going to be in most cases. So when you have a bigger gap, you have more room to expand the budget. When you have a smaller gap, smaller level, right? You're just going to get really close to those break-even points. Last thing's gonna be scaling. We actually really just talked about that, so I won't dive too much deeper on there. PMAX is very scalable though because it shows on the shopping network for ecom. That's one of the biggest networks. So we see a lot of the times if we have a client that's spending 100K per month, they might be spending 30 to 40K a month of that budget on the PMAX strategy that we have built out, and then the rest of it's going to be floating into other campaign types that we scale out. So there's a lot of room to scale into this individual campaign type. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. We're going to go over plenty more. We have a lot more to jump into for you. So please leave any comments you might have. Look forward to seeing you in the next video.